Welcome everyone to the Footy Radio callback and chat. I've brought a special guest. We're going to try and do this once a week, and then probably as the season ends and I've got nothing to do and I'm sat here thinking, what do I do with my life? We might do it every week. Thank you to everyone who reached out to me last night when I forgot I'd scheduled this for last night, not tonight. I've got man flu. I'm day 3 and I'm feeling a little bit better. I've had my meeting with the white light, but I brought Lek Dog in just in case I pass out and I need someone to fill in when the ibuprofen wears off. Mr. Lek Dog, you retired from draft and trade content and I got you in.
Yes, you did. Day 1, basically, of anything happening, and I'm here. We have our first official free agent move. Obviously, it doesn't actually go through until, 4 weeks' time or something? But, we've got our official announced free agent move, so I'll jump in. Who knows if I come back? I'll probably be back every fucking day.
Lek will be back. You watch. When trade and draft comes on, we'll be doing a 7-day, and Lek Dog will be here all 7 days. His beautiful fiance questioning her life choices when it's day 7. But let's talk about it. So what we'll do, chat, I thought we'll do a little bit of a radio callback. You guys can come in and ask your questions if you're brave on camera. You can also just throw them in chat if you want to. But what we'll do is we've got a little thing that's new for the Pom in Oz channel. I love a spreadsheet, and I've gone out here. And because I've got no life, I have condensed every trade rumor that you have ever seen. And I've
the
made
hardest thing about it, Bom, is that new ones get made up every hour. So you've got to constantly update this thing.
Mate, I am one man with a full Microsoft Office license and time. Mate, Jason, I'm with you, mate. I've got no life either. So, and he's right. It does take a long time. G'day, Paul. How you doing? So, obviously, Adelaide, they've been heavily linked, haven't they, to a lot of players. Like, I'd say Adelaide seem to be in my purview more than anyone. And when we talk about Adelaide, I think they desperately need a midfielder, but apart from Perriman and the loose link to Oliver, and it has to be said, it's a loose link. Like, this is how sad I am. This was mentioned on a radio show by the horse in passing, and I was like, pull that on the list. What do we think? Because it sounds like they're going to be heavily active, and they've probably had the most disappointing year out of all the sides, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they were the ones that definitely underperformed for my projections for the year. I sort of thought the natural next step of that development in the young guys would kick in and they'd jump up the ladder, but Nick seems to have the guys he likes and have a style of play he likes that's pretty inflexible. So it sounds like they're just going to try and bring in some more established talent. We know that Alex Neil-Bullen's basically locked in. I mean, I don't think he's going to Port Adelaide. He's told Melbourne he's leaving. He's been known that he's going to leave for a while. So what are I guess they're bringing in experience, but I'm not really sure. Their list is at a strange place, given that the young guys probably haven't taken the step we thought they would.
Do you think it's fair to say, and chat as well, answer this, do you think Adelaide lack experience? Do you think I think they have a Rory Sloan hole. Like, it sounds weird, but I think some players are glue. And I think Sloan kind of made them young players better. And it feels like what Collingwood are going to go through when Pendlebury leaves. How influential is his knowledge and his ability to control that midfield when you don't have him?
So they probably wanted Rory Laird to step up in that department this year. And, Rory Laird's really solid, but he's not the same type of player. And he's probably not the same type of leader. Of course, I don't actually know what he's like as a leader, but just based on all reports and the fact that there was some weird stuff with him and Jordan Dawson and your boy at the end of the year, Josh Rochelle, just some strange things going on there. I think they've lacked a bit there's potential for them to lose some pretty key players as well. Mark Keane's not a brand name, but he's someone who's linked to another club who might leave Adelaide, which is, again, that's a big hole in defence. It's just it's an awkward sort of lineup. I'm looking through the games played this year. Pom Saligo, could be a young gun to step up, but hasn't quite done it. He played every game. Max McElhinney played every game. Mitch Hinge had another good year, but it's just, I don't know. It's almost they probably haven't evolved enough into that next level of experienced body like they wanted to. So I think you're right. He's not that Sloane's played much recently, but he's a hard player to replace. Matt Crouch got injured and came back towards the end of the season. He missed a big chunk. That makes life difficult as well. It's just a weird sort of setup. And then Nick's, he does persist with some strange players in that that feature regularly in that side.
He's an interesting one, isn't he? I mean, you would say, though, would you say Nick's is lucky to still have his job? Like,
if you ask Adelaide supporters, yes.
Like, I know that's a bold call to make, but it is. I can't think of a worse year from when you were predicted to what's actually materialized. Like, I think they were my shoe-in for the 8. Like, I would have said, if you said who's a guarantee outside of the obvious big 4 last year, I would have said these guys were a shoe-in. Like, I would have guaranteed it.
Yeah, I think so as well. And just on that, Pom, I mentioned it in passing. Channel 10 has gone with their fitness coach or fitness guru at Adelaide, Burgess, is coming to Carlton. So Channel 10 have reported that. So there you go. They're also going to lose their fitness guru.
That'll be interesting, because it's not the first time Carlton have been linked with a superstar replacement fitness guru. Hopefully, this one goes well.
Hopefully. In terms of the list of those names, I think Cumming is a decent chance to get there. Neil Bullen's a decent chance to get there. Sorry, not Cumming. Perryman's a decent chance to get there. Oliver, I wouldn't have thought so. Daniel, maybe. I think Lukosius is going to end up playing for a Victorian club. That's my gut feel.
You know what? I'm surprised more people are after him. He's an interesting one as well for those in chat, because I don't know if you've seen the article, chat, and Letdog, but they said that he's on $1 million for the next 2 years.
Back
and everyone shit themselves, but that's $500K. That's about AFL average, isn't it? Like,
it is. I'm interested. Was it $1 million a year or $1 million? Because if it's $1 million across 2 years, who cares?
Mate, it's funny, and it is over 2 years. That will be interesting. So we'll have a look. Up next, obviously, Brisbane. No, not really linked to anyone. Hardly any picks.
Yeah,
it's an interesting
we know they
one,
get Ashcroft.
I mean, everyone's got it, haven't they? Really, like they've got the world. They've got to pick one for free.
Yeah, again.
Idiots. But Carlton up next. We're excited about this. Nick Haynes, obviously the Petrarca rumour won't go. Dan Houston, and I added this one for my boy Matty Anderson, Lee Kalia. Nick Haynes, probably the most obvious one. Do you know what I mean? Because he's basically Sam Durden replacement, isn't he?
He is. And he's someone, if you asked me like 6 years ago, do you want Nick Haynes? I would have done anything possible to get him into the club. And he's now, 33? So he'll come in and, I want him to be a depth player for Carlton. But knowing how coaches work, because he's an experienced player, he'll play every game for us, whether he deserves to or not. But that's, again, it's nothing. He'll be cheap as chips. He'll be a free agent. It won't trigger any sort of compensation. It's just another depth piece. And Pom, we've talked about this a lot, that we need depth in that area, in that key pillar area.
Well, I mean, it was a big. I did read a big article in New South Wales, and it said that he has gone for the lowest grade contract to move to Victoria. And I think Sonny makes a great point. This could be a coaching role, because he wanted to. He's done one of his coaching badges, one of his coaching levels But the contract is actually, I think, 185 to 225 is the banding, which is just above a draftee.
Yeah, I was going to say that's second round pick money.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like it's literally what we pay a brand new kid. So Nick Haynes is actually about the same as Sam Durden, but less than Caleb Marchbank. So that's probably 100K. If you replace Caleb Marchbank with him to make the maths easy, it's about 150K extra in the kitty.
Yeah, no, it's a logical one. If his body holds up, then you're laughing. He's there for depth in theory. Yeah, I like it. And maybe he's not. Maybe Mitch McGovern goes somewhere else, and then Nick Haynes has to play every game. Like there's worse things have happened.
Mate, it's one of them interesting ones. And then obviously it isn't a trade. Carlton haven't achieved the media expectation when Carlton are linked with a big fish. When I saw Dan Houston, I was like, shit, we've had a bad year. Then 2 days later, when I opened up and saw Christian Petrarca, I was like, Jesus. Carlton linked with a big fish. Now, both of these come with high risks. Obviously, Houston's agent has come out and it will be a minimum of $800,000 a year, which we've got to look at Nick Austin's words at the trade period last year with the contract re-signings then. He said with the current wage budget and hitting the draft in the next 2 years, TDK and Wheater are guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Houston, without bringing someone off the books, would probably pose a risk down the track because that's a lot of coin.
It's a lot of coin when you've already got a lot of a coin invested into your sort of general defenders with Sardi. Newman's probably on a bit, but not massive. But Sardi Williams, I'll put him in there. We know he's on decent whack of money. It's interesting. It's not the sort of player I'd be targeting personally if I was the list manager, Bob. Particularly, maybe if he was a few years younger, I'd be more inclined. But I'm going to reserve my judgment for if it actually happens. Then I'll lose my mind.
Mate, it was an interesting one because Matt makes a good point. Haywood was linked, but looking at them fees and looking at the contract he re-signed, it's estimated to be $550 at Sydney a year, which is the average AFL wage. The ones you want to worry about are the ones that are over that core $550 value. So that's a really interesting one because that's a lot of coin. Like, that is a lot of coin. Like Let Dog says, when it's not really, you would say halfback flank is the least area that you would put any cash in.
I also think it's the area you can get away with not putting that much cash in as well. Obviously, you'll want someone with a decent kick or decent run coming in there, but I reckon most years you can find someone in the first 16 picks of a draft that can probably fill that role within a year or two. Like Lockie Cowan could fill that role if we needed him to. He's just we've had the luxury of just sort of playing him as a defensive first player.
Paul Hill, happy 2-year Pomiversary, mate. 2-year member. But I mean, the elephant in the room, Tracker. So obviously this is a big deal. Like Matt says, SEN have said it's anywhere from 1.2 to 1.7 million, which is a lot of money. A lot of talk about the nuclear, which does worry me, and that is he can file a grievance with the AFLPA. And it's very interesting when you read the laws of the AFLPA. It's never been done. It is a high court judgment as well. Actually goes to the court. And the big one is the AFL, when that is lodged, can enforce a value for Carlton to play. And currently, it is speculated the laws they can only force one pick. So it could be a first for Petrarca. But it has to be said, if Carlton open this loophole, this could be like when we opened the preseason draft loophole and no club wanted to trade with us and no club wanted to help us out. And it is speculated it hindered us in negotiations because we did the unwritten rule, which is going that avenue.
And Pommer, you and I have the same attitude. I think I would use that loophole every single year until they close it, but I understand that I don't have to lose my job over it.
But, I mean, it's a risk. I mean, obviously, I think when you look at the AFL, like BugsBell asking about Hewitt and Kennedy, I mean, it will affect Kennedy, but, I mean, at the moment, Kennedy can't play midfield. With the injuries we've got, we're still making him a half forward or a forward. So I don't think that would bother Carlton. I think there's trade value there if that's the case. But if Melbourne was to sell this, I wanted to put this to chat and you. They've got Keziah Pickett, who's announced on the brink, have requested a trade. Clayton Oliver issues. I think Melbourne would be better off selling Petrarca, selling Oliver and selling Mr. Pickett and going bold in the draft. Like, if that's the case, I think that's, for me, a better run because I understand Petrarca. If I'm them, like, I'm not silly. I'm not going to be attached to the Carlton people. I'm not going to be attached to the Carlton players. But I'd want a guaranteed key forward because that's the one thing that's hindered us. So if I was selling him, I would do it. But I just think for long-term list strategy, you might as well cut all these players now and do what Collingwood did and rebuild and reset.
Yeah, it's a tough balance without knowing the insides and the actual issues. If there is club issues and more players are going to want out over the next couple of years, that's when you really get boned heading into Tassie being introduced. The hard part is selling Petrarca is what are you going to get for him? Because at the moment, we can only trade 2 picks. If the AFL hadn't only partially implemented their new draft and off-season rules this year, we'd be able to trade 3 or 4 picks, whatever the new rules are going to be. I can't remember off the top of my head. So the tough thing is, I agree that I would probably, at this point, it's hard to see how it gets salvaged if it's as bad as it sounds in the public. But finding the right home for him, one that and that's the other thing with player empowerment. It's like he kind of gets to dictate where he's going to go as well, which limits you as well. It's just really, it'd be a hard pill to swallow for Melbourne.
I really hope, I hope we don't go down that avenue. I hope he doesn't file that judgment because I think the ramifications for the AFL World Club for Australia-wide, game over. Game over. If a player does that, that opens the door. Yeah. And I hope he nominates another club. If he does that, I hope it's not us. Because I'm telling you now, the list managers will turn their back. ASAP Rocky. Because that's a very manipulated rule. Pies 45 gifted. I've just been on his channel. If he's given you a membership, please say thank you. I see Matty has. You guys are there. People asking about putting Chera on. I think Chera is a big risk. You know, when people say, oh, well, he's not playing for us. You've got to remember, if we know he's injured all the time, Melbourne
so do they.
Also read the papers.
He's if he's not worth anything on the trade table. He's salary filler at this point. You wouldn't get you might get a second for him, but to be honest with you, you might not. And that was the risk when we traded pick 6 for him when we did. And these are all the things I sort of flagged as potentials, and I was told I was a fucking idiot. And here we are. So Chera is not worth anything on the trade table right now. There is no clubs would have. We have no leverage in terms of like trying to convince people that he's worth anything. And it's not his fault, but he's been out with multiple soft tissue injuries. He hasn't performed to the level because of those injuries. And, you know, you're sort of rebuilding his value from the start. The only thing he's got going for him is his age at this stage, which is probably not enough of a selling point. He is literally the steak knives in our trade right now.
Do you know what I mean? $7.99 from Luke. Lemmy as trade bait with a first round. I mean, it's going to be interesting because I don't think, like, for me, I always try and take my Carlton hat off, right? If I'm Melbourne right now and Tracker is saying, I want out, I either want 2 first rounders, because everyone always uses Jeremy Cameron as an example. I think it's a good example how people forget what came back. That was 3 firsts for 2 seconds. So effectively, it's 2 firsts when you actually do the match. So I don't think you'll ever see a player more than 3 firsts in the league. I don't think there's ever been one. The way the draft is, it's hard. You might see one next year when people can burn holes, right? But I agree with you about Chera. I don't think he's worth me. I personally think if I was them, I understand they want a key forward. I would be taking 3, trying to get 2 firsts for Petrarca, trying to get a first for Clayton Oliver, because if I was Adelaide, I'd be going for Clayton Oliver, because I would back my system, get him out of Victoria, I can make him good again and look after him, and it's Melbourne's culture that's fucked. There's 3 first rounders at your club, Tim Membry's free, there's a key forward to tie Van Ruin up, and I hit the draft fucking hard. Like, I actually think Petrarca's helping them by wanting to move, but I do worry because when you're saying second rounder and stuff, I've looked into this all day. If he fails that, it will probably be the same as the compensation plus secret sauce. So you would probably see the AFL mandate Carlton give up pick 16 or whatever the pick is this year and say the contract is cancelled. Carlton give pick that. And then there is a rule for compensation. So they might give them pick 10 as a bonus. But I'm telling you now, you'll never get a trade with the AFL.
No. So
Never.
You better win the flag with him and be able to satisfy his contract requirements. And that'll require blowing up whoever takes him, blowing up your list, unless he's going to Richmond, because they're basically the only team that can afford him on his current deal.
Yeah, and I think I understand what you're saying, Luke. Like 2 firsts with Lemmy. I just think Lemmy to them, they'll want a key forward that can play round 1, who protects Van Ruin because he's their big asset. So for me, when I look at it, I just can't see any way of getting that deal done without AFL or, like Lou says, someone else. And I'll say this. People have been talking about Geelong bought 2 key forwards to win a flag. Look at the downfall in Hawkins year 2 when they won the flag. He became a second forward by definition is 30 to 40 goals. Look at Tom Lynch when he moved to Richmond. Rewalt became the second, 30 goals a year. So this is real common. And the statistical probability of having a key forward as a star, which is the 1.8 threshold, is 40% in the draft. To find one that kicks 30 is 72% in the first round. So if Melbourne want a forward just to kick second goals, their likelihood is any key forward in the first round of the draft will do that for them. It's the easiest position to play. So, yeah, but Carlton Blues, the point is Van Ruin isn't the 50-goal player yet, and he won't be for a year or 2. So we can't downplay it. Like, we are negligent. Yeah, but the problem is one always plays second, Jason. One's the beta, one's the alpha. It's never happened in the AFL history. In modern football, 2 alphas win the flag. One always becomes the beta. So it's going to be an interesting one. And then Lee Kalia. Like, this for me is an intriguing one. I think, good day, Herberton. How you doing, buddy? Lee Kalia is a real interesting one because this, for me, is a need. And this is a guy right now who gives me Elijah Holland's vibes. That he's never playing. All the guys around him are being signed up to contracts. And he ain't getting past them.
Yeah, he could come into Carlton and be that Caleb Marchbank or Lewis Young spot in the team. So I'm all for it. He's one of my... every year I do a list of targets for the Blues, and he is right up the top. And I try and make it realistic. So I think you could get him. I think, I don't know what it'd be, a second rounder or something. I'm not 100% sure, but I think you could get him in.
It's going to be funny as well because we'll come to GWS in a minute, but they've been linked to players like Mark Keane. I mean, like Elliot Himmelberg again, who that's like a yearly thing as well. There, but you look at their key position depth, it is prime. So,
yeah,
like Luke says, he wants to stay in any spot. He may do, but mid-season, so did Elijah.
Yeah, true.
And do you know what I mean? If Carlton ring him up, will match your salary and will give you game time, he'd be an idiot. And I'm with Carlton Blues. For me, when I look at them targets, right, that is that one there for me is a process of bad list management. Our backups are dead. That's a want. A want.
A luxury.
That is a want. That is a fucking need. Like that, I get that deal done with Nick Haynes straight away before I even have conversations about the others. I have Lee Collier in the Blues jacket. He's already been best mates with Wheeterin, and then I move on with my life.
Yeah. With you. Let's talk Pies.
So obviously they need a key forward, don't they? Desperate for a key forward. Tom Lynch has been one that's coming in. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Because Richmond need to get rid of players, I think. Like, need to get rid of players. But Tom Lynch, he has to be the cheapest player. Like, because
he wouldn't cost anything.
5 games in like 8 years.
Richmond might pay his salary, mate. I don't know if he's out of contract, to be fair. I haven't checked. But, yeah, he's...
No, he's not.
He's not, so he's still in contract. Yeah, like, you might... they might pay his contract and you might get him for nothing. Like, it's a no-brainer. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does, then there's your 30 goals bomb.
I think this one's laden with risk just because if he's injured.
It's risk for sure. It's risk. It's risk.
Like this is Tim Membry for me. Like, if
I don't know why Tim Membry's not on everyone's list. Like, he seems to me such an obvious target.
You know what? Just Carlton fans. I know there's a few of you in here. Tim Membry estimated he's on 300k. He's out of contract. St Kilda have not offering him a contract. So that means he is as cheap as chips. He just walks. He is a free agent, unrestricted free agent. What? I'd offer him 300
I'd take a punt at it and see what happens.
I know, but I'd do it for 2 years to protect Lemmy, but also make sure we've got backup in case JSOS isn't quite right. Like, that is, for me, I'm on the phone now saying, I've got the Uber. What pizza do you want?
I like it. Sorry, problem. I'm just fixing a work problem temporarily, so you keep going.
Okay, well, I'll keep chatting shit. Yeah, I think Membry at the Roos is a great one. I just think, for me, Membry... Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. It'd be nice as well just to not fucking see him on the opposition team sheet. I mean, I agree, Luke. Tattoos. The other one is a real interesting one. Collingwood have been heavily linked to Mark Keane. Now, obviously, this is all conjecture. He's gone home. That's a great thing. And you know what? There is a lot of talk that St Kilda tried to trade him last year, but then he had the mental health problems, but now he's all good. That's why they're cutting ties. I just think he'd be a great advocate for the Blues. I think he'd be a great advocate. And you know what? To Sarsby's point, and I'll check out the wheelchair sport. That sounds amazing. But I think it would help. I actually think the problem is with our defenders who are growing, I'd love a reserve legendary, like a good AFL player to play against these guys in VFL training as well. So Mackay and Kerno don't often take part in the joint training because they're important players and it's a risk of injury. Membry would. So I think that would be great for your young defenders to practice on him every day. But Mark Keane, a lot of conjecture about that. He's gone home, homesickness. He did it with Collingwood as well. Rumours that Collingwood are in for him. This one seems balmy to me. When he's already left you for homesickness, what's going to happen again?
Well, I mean, he went home for homesickness, didn't he? To Ireland, I think.
Yeah.
And then got back into the AFL, and I think, I mean, if I'm reading between the lines, he probably ideally wanted to just go back to Collingwood, and it didn't work, and now he's trying to leverage that opportunity. I love Matt Keane. He's one of those players I really like. So I would hate to see him go to Collingwood. But in terms of their key position depth, they've signed on a few guys today. Jeremy Howe was one of them. They've obviously played a couple of spuds down back. He'd be an upgrade on most of them.
Mate, I agree. And he'd be an interesting one. He would be another one, Lee Kalia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would be on their list. Obviously, this one won't go away. Bailey Smith. Real interesting one here because him and Rory Lobb. And Rory Lobb's that fascinating player that he gets linked everywhere, doesn't he? But probably suits Collingwood's style, doesn't it?
Is that Bailey Smith or Rory Lobb or both?
Well, Bailey Smith definitely suits Collingwood, but Rory Lobb definitely is that stopgap, which is what they seem to have done with their forwards.
Yeah, he's a stopgap. We've seen him play in defence and been okay. He can kind of play in the ruck. He can kind of play up forward. He's a depth piece, and it makes sense. Collingwood probably think they're close to getting back into finals. They were only off on percentage this year. Is that correct? Or they were off on half a game or whatever it was.
Yeah, half a game.
They're going to lose a couple of players from the sounds of it. They don't have any tall targets that are amazing up forward. So, yeah, as a stopgap, it's fine. It just depends where their list is going. But I've got no issues. I actually don't hate Rory Lobb as much as the rest of the AFL public seems to.
Mate, I'm with you. And then, obviously, they've been linked to a host of midfielders. Now, this is your boy, James Peatling.
Oh, I fucking love James Peatling.
And this guy came from nowhere, really, and probably suits the player. And there's two players Collingwood are linked with that we love. I'm a big Alex Davies boy. And these could be cheap as chips deals, but real good acquisitions. Because, as Wayne says, they've signed some of their older players. While you've got them players to teach, it might be the chance to take the chance on two guys that probably deserve to be first 22, but can't quite break in.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Peatling. I don't totally remember his story. He was a mid-season pick in that weird era just around or during COVID. It was the 2021 season he was picked up. So maybe he was just missed by recruiters and stuff. He had a bit of a different background, but he's come in. He's been really good in the games he's been allowed to play over the years. He's been played in a whole range of roles. In the VFL, predominantly midfielder dominated, finally got a call up with injuries this year. And they've slowly, I think they're only maintaining his midfield time until he signs a contract. And then it's straight back to being the sub and being the stopgap for him. I hope he moves away from GWS again. Hate Collingwood, so I hope it's not to them. But for me, he's like a prime, he's just a good footballer. So I think he's great for them. And Alex Davies is that big body sort of mid that they could potentially bring in. And then the other one that's rumoured is Hobbs. So they're clearly looking for that sort of Tom Mitchell, Jordan De Goey potential replacement, these sort of longer term guys. Obviously Pendles is probably done next year. So they definitely need to inject some youth into that midfield, and experienced youth, I think, is the important part.
Mate, spot on. I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, it seems to be the busiest trade period we've ever seen, which I find fascinating because I think this draft is the most exciting draft we've ever seen. And it seems there's going to be a lot of pick swaps here, which I think might play in if you just hold your horses a little bit.
No, I mean, I'm with you. We've talked about it a lot. I'd load up ahead of the Camporellis as Carlton fan and get some players in, but we'll see what happens.
And then we got Essendon. Joe Richards, obviously fascinating this because I feel like he is a player that they've made a mistake if Collingwood do get rid of him, because I think Elliott's on his way out and Schultz is one more bad issue away from being hounded out at Collingwood. And they've been linked with him, who I think probably hasn't need as small, someone to kick goals. But Harry Perriman strikes me as the ultimate Moneyball signing.
Yeah. Are you saying that in terms of he's overhyped or in terms of he's underhyped and a good acquisition? Because Moneyball in AFL terms can fucking mean anything.
Well, I mean, I would say, honestly, I think that's a really, I actually think he will be one of them ones that will go on and be a very good player for someone else. Like, in that terms, I think that might be one of them ones in 5 years' time, when it's done for a second or a third, we go, that was fucking ridiculous.
Well, there was talk early in the year he's going to be the highest paid free agent in the offseason, which would have shocked me. I think he's solid. He can play in defence. He can probably take the dice and fill the dice and Heppel hole. I know they've got a couple of players vying for that. He also has had stints further up the ground at times. He does feel like he could be an Essendon player, except hopefully he's not overpaid and not already 35 years old. That's probably the things they've previously gone for, whereas he's a little bit younger and hopefully a little bit cheaper.
Mate, and it's an interesting one because Fremantle, and I agree with Lou here, these guys are insane. And just a question from Luke. Jacob Constanti, horrible injuries in the middle of this part of the year. But you look at his VFL form this year, he has been smashing them in. So he'll be one to watch next year for them. But Fremantle, they have gone hard, haven't they? And they've had to go hard because I always feel like I bully Fremantle, but they're the team that I look at the list and vomit a little bit, right? I vomit a little bit. But if they can get Liam Baker and Shai Bolton, who were meant to be requesting a trade imminently with Fremantle, the destination, Pickett evidently prefers them to WA. Isaac coming and Jack Martin, this could be one hell of a trade period for Fremantle.
It's the difference between playing finals and not playing finals. And it throws out, from what I've gathered talking to Freo fans, what the list plan was or what the build plan they'd been sold was. It was sort of, we've moved, all these guys are requesting trades, we're getting future picks, we're going to hit deep drafts and bring him in. And all of a sudden you've got these really good players wanting to come. It's an option. Bolton, I think he works really well in the right system, so hopefully Freo can accommodate him. If you bring him and Pickett in, you're laughing. Liam Baker's a really solid player. He has played at both ends of the ground. He can play in defence alongside Jordan Clark and permanently move Hayden Young into the midfield, not need him to go back behind the ball. I think there's plenty of options there. And then if Jack Martin wants to go, I think it's worth the risk. They've taken that risk with Matt Taberner for the last few years and it hasn't paid off. Maybe it does with Jack Martin in a slightly different role. I think Freo, yeah, I'm with you. They last couple of years haven't been good to them, but it might be coming back. It might be coming back the other way.
Mate, 9, 10, 17, 27, 63, I think pretty much gets all of these and change.
Yeah, I think so. Carlton fans don't expect anything for Jack Martin.
I think they might save the 63 for us, to be honest.
Draft is that worth draft points still this year? Worth 3 points or whatever it is?
Yes, it's just in the purview. So I could, Joshua, great. Yeah, they did. They loaded up this year, which I do find funny because at the time I thought, looking at the draft, I was like, the draft probably suits Jalot and Fremantle to load up. But it seems they are going hard.
I think it was circumstantial as well with the players that they were training. The clubs didn't have the facilities to sort of trade with that in last year's draft as well. So I think it's actually worked out really well for him.
Matt asking Motlop, do you reckon, because there is talk Collingwood are doing everything they can to keep Joe Richards. Do you think Motlop has any value? And
which Motlop's that?
Jesse.
You're not going to get the value you think you are for him. I think he's more valuable to us as a player than to someone else, would be my answer.
Well, GWS, they have been quite... It's not often you hear from GWS, but GWS have been quite bold that they are going to the draft and they are playing their cards to the chest. And as of such,
they might get Himmelberg again or try and get Himmelberg again, but that seems to have gone a bit quiet.
But Bailey Smith, this could be an interesting one, I think, because this would probably be the first time in a long time that they've done the old bring in a jet since the Cameron days.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, right? If he doesn't do his ACL, Bulldogs are asking for the world for him. He does his ACL, he misses the year. You probably have to settle for pick 18 if assuming Geelong win the flag. And that's probably what it is. And it's probably unders if you're the Bulldogs, and it's probably just right if you're the Geelong, if you can get in a jet like him. There's obviously risk with a guy coming off injury and a guy who's probably got more opportunities as a model in terms of making money than he does as footy. So if you piss him off, he can probably just walk out the door and he's got no issues. But in terms of footy and on-field impact, it's Petrarca light, isn't it? And it's exactly what Geelong want.
Mate, I agree. And James Van Ness, I'd love James Van Ness. I don't think he'd make it, but he is an old friend of the Pommy and Oz channel. Good country boy. But hopefully he gets a second chance. A lot of talented juniors. I agree. And Matt Anderson saying it looks like a done deal. That is one of them that I reckon it's been coming 2 years. And I reckon someone at Geelong rubbed their hands when he snapped his ACL because they were suddenly like, this is one pick. Get in, baby.
Matt Anderson also pointed out that Freo were into the Chad Warner rumours as well early in the year, which, it would be another great, another fantastic get if they could do it.
Imagine Damo, friend of this channel and friend of us, if they built the Harlem Globetrotters of the AFL.
Would be a lot of blood flow moving away from his brain, I think, if that was the case.
I'd be hitting the block button, bro. Fucking quick. Gold Coast. I mean, Gold Coast were literally, everyone expected D.E. Martin to be on this list. Obviously, unless Dustin Martin does a Luke Hodge and reneges his retirement and they do some token pick fourth round pick for him. But at the moment, it looks like halfback has been an area, and we know that's a key pillar of Mr. Hardwick's situation. But John Noble and Dan Rioli looking almost guaranteed to request a trade there, with Isaac Cumming gathering heat for the last couple of weeks. These probably the first time Gold Coast have been linked to people where I'm like, oh, this makes sense.
It's interesting. They've got some guys back there. Sexton played back there at times this year. Then they ended up pushing him out and moving him forward. Maybe that's an indication of they weren't happy with his performance there or preparing for a world without him. Will Powell's back there, who's good as well. They've got a couple of young guys that have rolled through there. But you're right that Hardwick loves, Jaden Short was one of his favourite players. Dan Rioli was one of his favourite players to use. Between Noble, Cumming, Rioli, and Powell, you've got a pretty good lineup with Weller as depth as well. There's plenty to work with there. They probably don't get all three of those guys. They probably don't need all three.
Yeah, you know what's weird? We've done this for 3 years, you and me, like dog. It's the first time I've ever seen Gold Coast and then seen names going, yeah, they're actually fucking good signings.
Yeah, it's the first time they haven't been giving players away for free, mate.
Like I actually, when I did this sheet, I was like, nah, there's got to be a player they've got 50 of.
Yeah.
Like, I've got this wrong. But no, I agree. Domaku, do you reckon he gets another year or do you reckon he gets delisted? Now they've extended the rookie rule.
We talked about this the other day. What's the risk? They've extended it. If you can keep him on and you think there's a chance that he could be an AFL player, you keep him on. If you don't think there's a chance, then you move him on. You either think that there's something there or you don't at this point. And my gut feel is but he has flashes, doesn't he? He has flashes, and you're like, oh, hang on a minute.
Mate, he's a complete cock tease. I've got to admit, he's a cock tease because you just think he's got it. But Hawthorn obviously woke up this morning, probably a year before most people thought they'd be in the finals. and they've secured a fullback and a centre halfback already. Tom Barras announcing Hawthorn his preferred destination, and Josh Battle announcing it. And suddenly they are in that sexy position that Sam Frost being the stopgap. Now they've got all Australian potential talent coming straight into Hawthorn.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic management from them. It means Sicily suddenly becomes the best player in Supercoach again, because he now gets to play loose and just enjoy his time taking intercept possessions. Battle's solid. Brass is great when he's on the park, has some history injury, but you take that gamble. And these guys have been rumoured for a while to Hawthorn, which tells me that they knew they were going to play finals this year, and they were probably ahead of the curve in terms of the rest of us. Great additions, and they're not going to give up much to get him. Josh Battle's a free agent, and Barras it'll be a first. So, it's easy business for them. It's and they've got so much youth already that doesn't matter.
Would you say this is quite exciting? Would you say that this is the best rebuild ever? Because we've said it. Yeah. You and me have done these videos all the time and saying if you're doing a rebuild, just kill your list. Don't fuck about, except you'll win one game and get it out of the way as quickly as possible. Hawthorn did it, and suddenly they are back straight away because they did it so hard and had a plan. This could be the best rebuild, couldn't it? It
is, and the things that are less tangible in a rebuild are the stability at the club. The club was still a strong club from all reports. They bought Sam Mitchell in. So yes, they lost the coach, but they bought Sam Mitchell in, who'd always been in a strong culture and a strong setup at that football club to coach. So, Carlton, when they tore the club down, they also tore down the coaches and the assistants and, sacked the boot studders and everything. And they lost a lot of that support and consistency, and it's not just on the park where you need consistency, it's off the park. So they've basically just gone, well, everyone take 2 years off, we're going to fuck off the players and replace them with some good young ones. And they nailed the picks as well, Pom, which is not something that all clubs do.
It's not, and it was Target acquired as well. There was a couple of players there early, taken maybe a bit earlier than you'd expect, but you could see that they had literally said, right, this is what we're going in. We ain't getting distracted by free agents yet. We're just going for what we want. Boom. Josh Battle, Luke Linden, Sindenas, is he any good? I think he is one of them horrible players that gets underrated because he just does his job.
Yeah.
Which I always think is a defender's good. You don't want a defender to stand out.
No, he is. He's good. It's pretty simple. He's good.
And Perryman, we've talked about, he would be an excellent depth player. And you know what? If they could pull Battle, Barras, Bailey Smith off, it's worth getting a membership at Hawthorn just to be able to watch Bailey Smith, Watson in the forward line with Bruce, didn't it?
Yeah, if that happens, I'm not watching footy anymore.
All right, that is tasty. Melbourne, obviously, we can disregard him, but Melbourne obviously been linked with Harry Mackay through the Petrarca deal, which we talked at length. Tom Lynch, this makes sense, Tom Lynch. I can see them taking the punt on Tom Lynch because they probably... They've done it before with Shaki, so it's not like they're gaining anything. But I found the Harry Edwards link the most interesting because I think he's been really good for West Coast this year. And I think good defenders in shit sides are the most overlooked defenders in the league.
No, he's been great. If West Coast lose him and Barras, they're stuffed. And he just signed a new contract maybe yesterday or the day before or semi-recently. So I would assume he's not leaving. But it's an interesting one in that why they would be targeting a defender. Because does that mean they actually see not petty as a forward, because he's not. He's not. He's not.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because they tried Tom McDonald down back. They tried everyone else down the back. But it hasn't quite worked, has it, for them? And it's weird because this was, I agree with you, the Petty May and Lever combination was probably the best three we've ever seen in the AFL for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like it was working. They never really got questioned for being too tall. Often Carlton get accused of being too tall. Our style seems to isolate players a lot more, which can cause issues. But they never have seemed to have been called out for being too tall in defence when those three played. And it just feels like a weird... They need a forward, obviously. And
this team screams, we don't want to commit to the rebuild. Like, them links scream clinging on to a dream.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think you're right.
North Melbourne. Now, I think North Melbourne are in a great position here. Pick 2 in the draft. Have a little bit of fun. And I think the one thing they lack, and I know everyone's saying, oh, go and pick the best player in the draft. I think pick 2 should be on the table today. And these are the players they need. They need a bit of grunt, a little bit of hardness, so they can look after their polish. I think all 5 of these are spectacular signings for North Melbourne.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty clear what Clarko wants to do. He brought in Liam Shields to sort of do that job. Hugh Greenwood came in before he came across admittedly to sort of be a bit of experience. And as much as Liam Shields is a premiership player, he's not like he's a job doer, whereas these other guys have the capability to lead. North were in a lot of games this year, and they just couldn't hold in. You hold on. You add some experience and some guys who experienced the big stage, and I don't think North's in as bad position as their record indicates. I think these guys help that.
He did, but it's interesting. The Jack Viney link comes from him himself, Clarko, who issued a little SEN plea that Jack Viney is a player that he would love to sign and would move heaven and earth for. And it is interesting because I would imagine this would be one to watch this space. I know Josh says Harry's agent says no deal. Having been on the golf course with a list manager when a deal was done that wasn't even in the papers and hearing these words, okay, done, I'll speak to the player's agent. Quite often, the players don't know till it's too late. And when it is done, you'll be shocked how many players go when they're told to go, because it would be quite a heavy conversation of, look, we want rid of you. And it's a brutal industry, but it'll happen. I could see Viney being one of them. If I'm Viney, and let's just say Petrarca leaves, let's say Clayton Oliver leaves, do I want to stick around? Or do I jump?
It's interesting. I really like...
the last man standing.
He would be. I really like a Rampy Parker combo to them, by the way. 2 teammates that have played together, played in grand finals. Parker can play forward and in the midfield. I know he's older, but he's a big body. And then Dane Rampy can obviously play in defense. I think if I had to bring in 2 mature ages and I could get 2 who have been successful at another club working together, that's probably how I would do it.
Right, I agree. Kai, big friend of the channel, Sydney Than. You know what? I think the opposite. I think Luke, come to Victoria, I'd jump at it. Like, I genuinely think...
Get a cushy job on Fox Footy on 360 or something like that.
Yeah. I actually think, as well, Jack Henry's huge, because he is an AFL standard backman that at the moment...
Yeah, they desperately...
I'm better than Toby Pink.
I know. We talked about this for 2 years.
Port Adelaide, usually another team that have done a Gold Coast this year, usually they are linked to some overpaid idiot and they're dining out on that one good draft they have. this here, if I had to write down things I think Port want, nailed it. I like all of these links.
Yep. So a couple of Houston replacements in there. Jack Lukosius could play at either end, plays up forward when Charlie Dixon either retires or isn't available to support Georgiades. Joe Richards, small forward, can hit the scoreboard, and Garcia can do a little bit of everything. So I think you're right. I think these are targeted to fill holes, but they're not massive names in the scheme of the AFL.
Mate, I think Jack Lukosius, this is the interesting one. You know what? I've got a feeling like you. I think there is a big Victorian club to come in for him. And you know what as well? I get Elijah Hollands about this one, that he wants to play forward.
Yeah.
And they're not letting him, and they've swung him round. I've got a feeling that if a Victorian club comes in right now and says you're playing forward, fuck Adelaide.
Yep, I'm with you.
Do you know what I mean? Like, watch this space. I do like this one, though. Riley Garcia. He's one of them players that I think he's one of them picks that's probably not utilised by the Dogs, but definitely shown something. And they've had success with these players like Willie Rioli and stuff who have been quite inconsistent but found consistency at Port.
Yeah, and I think, he has played towards the end of the year for the Bulldogs. They've got quite a few players like him. He's out of contract. Ideally, you'd like to keep him over some of the tradies that they have on their list over at the Bulldogs. But I think there's upside in Riley Garcia.
Mate, I love it. Lucas just needs to toughen up. He drops the lip and needs to live up to his draft number. You know what? I was on a Collingwood channel and people were saying the same about him. I look at it this way. Jack Lukosius was probably one of the first dynamic forwards in the draft. And I think Gold Coast have used him horribly. And I see a lot of Elijah. Elijah was quite sulky at Gold Coast. You could see he didn't like the role he was playing. He was seeing other people get the opportunity who were seriously injured or shit. So I think there might be an element here from you playing me at fucking halfback. I haven't seen halfback before. Like, you're giving Levi Casbolt game time. You're giving Sam Day game time. Like, why aren't I? You drafted me as a key. Why aren't I getting it? So I think there might be an element that if he comes to another club and they say, look, you're a key forward, he's going to relish it.
Yeah, I think whoever gets him is going to be very happy.
You know, and the club we're on now, St Kilda, this is the club that I think should go for him because you've lose Tim Membry. For me, this is the guy.
Age, profile.
For me, this is it. You play him as that loose forward.
Yep.
Game
Max
over.
King takes the thugs, Cooper Sharman or Anthony Caminiti is the second tall, and then Luco just runs around and kicks from 55.
Do you know what I mean? This could be huge, but obviously they're one of the teams that are linked in. They've lessened the talk with Dylan Shield. It's meant to be, according to Stephen Silvani, he has come out and said it's a later option. But Adam Tomlinson, James Peatling, and Dan Houston is linking quite high. This has, I'm telling you, if Sauce goes for Dan Houston, we get Dan Houston.
Yeah. It's I've got some theories on Dan Houston, but they're for off-air pop. I can't talk about those yet. I need those sources to formalize themselves. What I'm interested in on this list is a lesser known Adam Tomlinson, who I had spoken indirectly to a couple of years ago, and he was sort of considering, not continuing. He's clearly got that spark back, and I think he's a great sort of depth replacement for Josh Battle. He's a sort of an interim guy you get in if you think you're going to be decent next year. Has had some injury battles in the past, but I think he's a solid addition to any team who needs a backman.
Mate, I think this could be a huge one. I mean, Luke here with the 299. Cheers, my brother. Doc 2.0 going to the Saints. It'd be an interesting one, this one, wouldn't it? Because this, St Kilda aren't, probably that's their big weakness, isn't it? They've never attracted a big fish. And Usually
No.
what they do is overpay an average fish to make it feel like a big fish, like Zach Jones a few years ago. Dan Hanbury, players like that, they usually make a player $1 million so it feels like they've got one. I'm with you, though, with Adam Tomlinson. If he's fit, I don't mind that as a battle replacement.
No, I don't mind it. I'm just looking through who St Kilda have brought in since 2018. Dan Hanbury, Dean Kent, Dan Butler, Brad Hill, Dougal Howard, Jack Higgins, Brad Crouch, James Frawley, who played one game, Zane Cordy, Paddy Dow, Liam Henry. It's not a superstar-studded cast, is it?
Do you know what I mean? It's interesting. It's interesting. Would you prioritise Houston over track? Not really. Like halfback, like when I did that video, I implore you after this to watch it, but like numbers don't lie for recruiting in modern day football. The most common position is halfback flank. Second is inside or wingers, inside mids or wingers, right? Third is key defenders. Is key forwards. Then it's key defenders, rucks, then goal-kicking mids. So goal-kicking mids are 25 plus midfielders. So Dan Houston, for me, high percentage play you can find him. Very low percentage in any data that wins games. For me, this is one of them signings that you either have an Adam Sard or you have a Dan Houston. You don't have two of them.
Agree.
And Carlton manufacture that from the tall positions. They're elite goal kicking. If they start having another elite goal kicker on there, I think that backline becomes very slow and stodgy.
Agree. Yeah.
But good window by Saints if they get that. Because no doubt they'll play Dan Houston on the ball. And then we finish with West Coast Eagles, who, you know what? There's only one that makes me feel sick here, and that's Keziah Pickett. Because when you're rebuilding, draft a small at pick 55. Right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, fuck that off. But Liam Baker, I think, definitely a need. Jack Graham, need a bit of muscle in that midfield. It can't be Harley Reid being physical. Riley Garcia, I think, really universal. And Jack Carroll, these are the kind of signings I think Carlton should have made when we had a young midfield. A guy that's been in the AFL system 4 years that you can almost use at worst as the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. And Matt Kennedy would be another player in that ilk that if I was West Coast, you'd try and get in. It's the guy who can just do the job.
And they're really it. And that is pretty much the draft and trade window. What I'll do is, Dog, how long have you got left?
I'll give you another 15 or so.
Tell you what, 15 minutes, you want to come in, or if you're too shy, just drop a message. But come and chat to us. Ask us any questions about the finals or not. Me and Let Dog will just piss about and talk about that. But Let Dog, finals coming up. Who's your favourite to win the flag?
Well, as I've said to you offline, I think Carlton are the worst form side to ever play finals, and I simultaneously think they're going to win the flag. So, if not them, all of my ladder predictors seem to end up with Port Adelaide winning, which is a surprise to me. Maybe I overrate Georgiades a bit, but I like Port Adelaide's chances.
You know what? It would be the most Carlton thing, wouldn't it? To come in, to be shit, and then find their form over 4 games and win the flag. Would that not be the most Carlton thing ever? But if it's not us, I feel Geelong.
Geelong's a good one. I think I did a podcast earlier in the week, and I think I'll have to double check. I think it was a Geelong Port Adelaide grand final. I think I'll have to double check.
Mate, I love it. I love it. Big Patrick, Hawthorn getting Battle and Barras, lucky bastards. I mean, honestly, we've got to say, is it not the greatest Like, I'm telling you now, I've never seen a rebuild as good as this. Me and Letdog do the draft every year, and we've always said, Band-Aid it, fuck the fans, have 0 wins, be brave, just do it. Hawthorn literally came out that first year, said, we're not bothered about results, we're resetting our culture. And what did they do? They ripped the Band-Aid off. Bang. Look at it. It's a thing to behold, isn't it?
It's pretty bloody good. I'm just trying to work out when they really started their big cull. So they got in Lloyd Meek in 2022 for O'Meara. They got Cooper Stevens in, that didn't work out. They bought in Carl Amon as an unrestricted free agent. Bought in Scholl, D'Ambrosio, Ginnivan, Gunston, but it was the players they were drafting alongside it. Nick Watson, Cam McKenzie, Connor McDonald. There's a bunch of names I liked in their drafts. Obviously, they got Newcomb in the mid. Was it the mid-season or the pre-season? Mid-season.
Mid-season. Don't you remember? That was the first mid-season preview we did, because I remember talking about Newcomb with you, and I remember someone in the comments who was a Hawthorn fan was like, "Don't be fucking stupid. A state league footballer won't be any good for us. He ain't going to get any tackles because he's tackling real men." No surprise, motherfucker. Where are you now? Make yourself known.
Damo's just texted in, by the way. I did not predict Geelong Port on the podcast. That was him. So there we go.
Actually, Damo, if you're listening, Pommy Oz would like to humbly apologise, right, for when I said you were bottom 4 this year. Well done. You weren't bottom 4. I mean, you're still shit, but you're not bottom 4. So I am sorry I did that. Can Blues win? Now, you know what? I wanted to talk about this, and chat will do this. 7 changes. I think TDK is the most important one. Paul with the 10 gifted. Thank you very much, mate.
Hey.
If Paul has done that. But I think he is the most important player. Now, someone asked, Pom, would you get Petrarca? Right? Jason R. 2,000%. Because the one thing Carlton lack, right, as I said in my video, is a goal-kicking mid. And every team that's ever won a flag has done it. And there is a reason why TDK is so important. He's dynamic from stoppage. He moves the ball out of there himself. Carlton's midfield genuinely passes it out to try and get the kick to a forward. TDK is the exception to that rule because he has to break the line. Now, that doesn't mean you need pace. The way you kill it, and after this, go and watch Sydney versus Carlton. 6 goals, 4 from midfielders, 5 goals, 1 from stoppage. Carlton had to move one player from behind the ball and put it on the ball, which then made the problem worse because then they passed around us. So TDK allows us to be more dynamic. But is there a cheap option? Let's play a game with Poms. That dog loves this. Poms updated. Dun, dun, dun. Right?
This is my favourite spreadsheet.
September draft. So, right, if you look here, these are the positions currently at the moment. Right, we need a goal-kicking mid. So what we need to do is statistically as well, you never make a goal-kicking mid unless you've got one on your list. So right now, you ring up Luke Parker. He is statistically, over the last 10 years, the most consistent goal-kicking mid. But he's currently playing a half-forward. But that's okay. 1-year deal, come on down. And then, right, you draft this guy, right? You draft Tom Gross. He is him. You either draft Tom Gross, or if you want a little bit slight of Christian Morales, but Tom Gross, right? Tom Gross is just see ball, get ball, kick it out. And that's what Petrarca does. Petrarca would instantly make Carlton better. I promise. I can't prove it to you because I can't do it. But I can't make reality happen. But Petrarca's ability to split and create defensive holes as you react. The problem is when you play Carlton, you know if Carlton get the ball, they handball it to space to kick to their toes. If you change that methodology up, like with Neil, with like Petrarca, with like Bontempelli, teams always play an extra behind the ball to try and take that shot at goal, not the ball going diagonally. That would make Carlton better. And but Jason, I think Parker makes you better now. Tom Gross is your future. For me, I'll be full caveat. From doing the research, as much as I love Harry Mackay, I'd do anything to get Christian Petrarca at this football club because I am so confident that it would change the way Carlton play, and I have no fear about any mental health issues because that's why you do due diligence. But if I got the reporters list manager and they said Petrarca is fine, Pommy, he'll never get sick, right?
Damo, by the way, has come back to you, Pom, and he says, Freo is shit. What a failed end of the season. Bring on Tassie. Have always been a big fan. Inaugural member. Names on the stadium. So
yes, so's mine. So's mine. Hey,
are you a Tassie member as well?
Yes, I am. So me and Damo could do it. So I think it's big. But what about Berry? You know what? Joe Berry scares me a lot because this guy, you know what scares me is Joe Berry's got 45, 50 goals a year as a small forward written all over him. And he comes to Carlton and Carlton teach him to tackle 10 times inside 50 and was shit with him. But best player in this draft as a small forward.
Here you go. We like it.
Morales. Hey, Moraes is my favourite. Like this guy here, it's Paddy Dow 2.0. You know what? I want to say this. If Carlton, I'm going to make a big call. I was doing a bit of research. It's a video for later. And let me know if you're interested. But it's where Carlton went wrong with certain players. Dow, Fisher, I am telling you now, if Carlton in 2016 had managed to snare, do you remember 2017 when we were linked with Canelio, players like that, Dylan Shield? If we'd snagged one of them, I am telling you right now, one of Fisher, Dow, or SPS would have been top 20 in the league. They were all goal-kicking mids. They had no fucker to learn off. Like, I'll just prove it to you. Do you want to be depressed? You hate Petrarca. Those who hate Petrarca in chat, I'll just show you what I mean, right? I'll show you what I mean. You ready? Look, be careful what you ask for. Pom will bring you it. I will bring the fucking pain, right? So what I mean by this is if you look at the great teams, right? Just look at our goals from midfield. So we'll show you, look, good starting point. I'll show you Richmond. So let's go to Richmond, right? 2017, right? So if you look at Richmond, right, can you see that? Right, you look at that breakdown, right? So this is what I mean by key forward. If you can get a key forward kicking 50, you need to get goals from either your forward line, but always the midfielder has 30 every time, right? So if you look here, then you look at the spread of their forward half. But look, their second best midfielder is kicking 17. So just keep 17 in your head, right? So then let's go to when they bought Tom Lynch. So you remember it was 50. Look at the change in Rewalt. He becomes a secondary 20. They have 1 star, 1 target, 1 person working up the deep, right? And then look at how this spreads out. You've got Dustin Martin, midfielder, right? Then you've got Castagna. Look at how it spreads out. That suddenly all the forwards in that team have close to 20. And that's because you've got full forward, guy working the ground, right? Now, let's just do that. So now we've proved how the list makeup works, right? Even if you go Geelong run the flag when? 2022? What?
Say that. Sorry.
When did Geelong win the flag? 2022?
Yeah, let's say that. 2022? I think so.
Someone in chat, come on, there's over 100 of you here. 2022. Right, okay.
They all blend into one.
Right. So look here how hard it is. The only time we've seen 2 players over 50 goals as key forwards to win the flag is this year, right? Right? So remember, we're talking modern day football. So modern day football, by definition, is 2010 onwards. The game changed dramatically. We saw a depreciation in marks. We had almost half disposal per meters gained. Massive change, right? But look at this. Their next forward had to kick 50. And look, they don't get goals from midfield till 13. All right? Now, that's almost impossible to replicate. And that's why if you look at Geelong this year, right, look, you're starting to see a little bit more of a shift. Look, that they're spreading the load through 2 third forwards. They're trying to spread the load. And then you're getting a lot of goals from their half forwards, right? But then when you look at Carlton, so bear in mind, we're either looking at 2 60-goal years and you're averaging 18 from your smalls, or you're getting at least a minimum 20 from mids, right? Look, so let's just do mids. We'll just circle by mids. So we've got 16, can't count Kennedy, 50% game time forward this year.
Yeah.
Right, 16, 11, Blake A. Look, Cottrell won it, right? That's disgraceful. Cripps, that's the one good year. Big issue with that, Carlton's defence from stoppage in 2022, one of the worst in the league, because we deployed him more advanced. I was
going to say, we're kicking him. He's kicking them as a forward, not as a midfielder.
But then look, 13. 13. Jack Noons. Do you remember when you all hated him?
Cowboy.
Right?
Not
look,
me.
13. Like, these are numbers. You don't see 13 goals kicked from midfield unless you're a first-year player. So what's that got to do with Petrarca, right? Okay, so this year, remember, he's been injured quite a bit. But let's have a look. Let's have a look. So, mid. So, look, 14 this year. So, he's already the best at Carlton, pretty much. And he's missed games, right? Missed games. But then, look at last year. 28, right? That would be 4th on our goal kicking this year behind Owen. Look, 19, 29, 15. Do you know what I mean? Right? And this was before he became a pure midfielder. If you look here, he's not on this list because he's a forward. See? So do you know what I mean? So you see, his worst year for Melbourne would be the best year for that. And 70% of them goals are from stoppage situations. So it spreads your midfield. It creates that dynamic. And also, for Carlton to get their smalls working, Carlton's smalls, but says you couldn't say that about Richmond. Like, it's not a knock on Harry. People need to stop seeing it as a knock on Harry. It's how the AFL game works.
It's maths.
You know what I mean? It's how the AFL game works. The reason our stoppage is so defensive is because it's so easy to defend against it. So Carlton have to find that dynamic play. So it doesn't have to be Petrarca, but you go back since 2000, only one side has won with 2 key forwards. I agree. You could do Rochelle as well. Would you play him in the midfield, though? Would you play him in the midfield?
Not right now.
It would do, though, because you actually look at the setup that Melbourne deploy. Carlton's is a copy of Melbourne's.
See, Says is actually asking all the questions I asked you when we went through this on the phone.
Yeah.
So I like it.
No, I agree, Alex. But I agree with you, but I would say that'd be a cheaper deal to do. But Philippo's great. I'm with you. I love it. But Carlton, without a shadow of a doubt, like, just look at this makeup here. Look at last year. Right? Ironically, do you see a pattern emerging here with our forwards? Right? That 1-2, 2 of the forwards met the zone. And what happened? What did Harry do? Harry started to be deployed up the wing. Right? So I want you to hear me out. Before everyone goes, can't trade Harry, I love him. I don't care if you like him or not. Emotion doesn't win flags. All emotion does is make your boyfriend or your wife give you a cuddle. And I ain't that, right? But you will see something happen here, right? When you move Harry out of the goal square, This is why one key forward is the daddy, one is the brother, right? One is the brother, right? Because one makes space for you to run in behind. Tim Membry, watch him against Carlton, leads up the ground, creates space in behind for Smalls to work off. When that happens, your Smalls kick goals. Look what happened when Harry found form. Absolute implosion from small forwards. Owies is still doing it. 17 of his goals this year, Joe DeGoose's, right? Because he's in the right area.
Yeah.
But look, not enough from the others. Not enough from the others. Look at the midfield, like Cripps, 16 goals. That's diabolical. Like, that's sackable. That our best ball winner is our best goal kicker. Like, that's diabolical. Like, no one can justify that. No, Elijah could, but Elijah makes that other problem. Look at how many goals he's kicked from half forward, right? The next best has kicked 9 of his goals playing key position. That's a world of hurt.
It's a worry.
That's a world of hurt. That's a world of hurt. So it's a fascinating thing. Buddy Franklin, that's a good call.
2008.
Yeah. So
that was the first one, wasn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, we're before modern football there. We are before modern football by definition. However, I can tell you, I haven't got the data in front of me, but because he was at Feeney then, wasn't he?
Hawker.
You will see though a lot. There was more goals kicked 10 years ago. It was a big thing.
Does it go back any further, or does it just go back to 2014?
It doesn't on this stat, but I did check it. You actually see the buddy. It's roughly 30 off each other. But you're looking at
hard to compare though. That's completely
different game. But look at goals from midfield. Still, like in an ideal world, you keep Harry, but in an ideal world, you need a mid.
And you probably how else are you getting him? How else are you paying matching the salary, and how else are you trading him in and all that?
But this is the thing, like Carlton fans are real hard work at the moment. It's not he's going to fix everything, but let's just take Harry out of the equation because honestly, look, I'm open. None of these players for me, I want to see every day. I would trade any one of them. If you told me I could win a flag next year, none of them get to stay. If God came down himself and said, get rid of these 2, get these 8 players, you win a flag, I'm getting rid of them. Because there's no truth. Let me tell you this. There's no truth in the players staying together and liking each other that wins flags. A lot of teams hate each other and wins flags. Because winning cures all, right? But it's not that he'll fix everything. It's he is a dying need, and the Blues are desperate to acquire that need. So it's a Petrarca type player. But what I was trying to get through to you, right? What I was trying to get through to you, which is so important, so important, is traditionally speaking, you have a key forward that is the daddy, and you have a forward that takes players away from that guy, right? So the problem is with Harry, if you think paying $1 million a year, which is what Harry's contract renewal is, 850,000, it's worth playing him up the wing when every other forward in the league that's doing that is on 400k. You're either bad with money or you're Harry's wife.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying. So you've got 2 options. You either add Harry, right? You have to add a role, which Geelong did for 1 year and scrapped because stoppage-wise, it killed them, just kicking the ball long all the time into them. You have to find a system that works, which has never been found. But we tire in games because of our clearance and stoppage, because it's high maintenance. Go and watch Hawthorn. I was disgusted. Sam Mitchell said they gave the pre-game speech and then the after in the camera. He said, you will be tested physically and mentally today. When the game ended, he said, I apologise. I thought you would be, but well done for being ready. And their whole system was playing the extra around defence, knowing Carlton would handball and handball and handball, and then kick it into the forward line. And it killed us. It killed us. So that is high maintenance. It will be almost impossible to sustain that unless you don't get injuries, which is almost impossible unless Nick Austin trades 20 players out, which he's not going to. He can't. So no. It's almost illegal. But
then Burgess might fix it all.
But, like, don't take the piss when you twist my words and say, Pom said it'll fix it all. All I'm trying to do is present you some fact to think about it. But if you are in the mindset of, I like Harry, that's okay. I like Charlie. The difference is, I also love my football club and I want to win flags. So I would trade Charlie tomorrow if there was an opportunity to win a flag. If you could say, I can bring 4 players in, you win a flag, I'd go okay.
Mm-hmm.
You'd go okay. But Ben, spot on. I would say for Harry as well, it's like Ben Brown to Melbourne. He didn't want to go. His agent came out. I don't want to go. He's happy at North. He's a Roo for life. Dane Beams did a crying speech at Brisbane. How could I leave here after how you supported me when my family had issues and my dad passed away? 2 days later, he did it. He did it. And you've got to say this, says, just so you know, Petrarca has not once said anything about his brand. That's Sam McClure that has said that. It was speculated. But you know what? Christian Petrarca, listen to Caleb Windsor. Petrarca came in early off his preseason to work with him to settle him in at Melbourne. Listen, no one's talking about the other thing that Petrarca did. He's upset they've hung Clayton Oliver out to dry. That shows he's incredibly good team player because he was upset that they didn't look after Clayton. They ignored it. So, and also they're full-grown men. Like, I tell my children off if they say there's a kid in my class that annoys me. I'm like, focus on what you're doing and focus on what you need to do. Like, they're men. Like, if, Petrarca does a TikTok affects me, you don't deserve to play professional football. But
breaking Carlton news bomb for you.
What?
Breaking Carlton news for you.
What?
Jacob Wiedering is an All-Australian.
Hey! Good lad.
I really thought they were going to stiff him again. I really thought they were going to stiff him.
No, I thought he would do. But what I'm saying is, in an ideal world, it'd be great if we can get a Petrarca-type player. It would change everything about Cowan. It would change everything about Cowan.
Agree. Well, Pom, I'm going to have to run.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go as well. Chat. We're going to try and do this. It might not always be Let Dog, but I'll be here. I'll advertise it next week. If you guys want to come on, it'd be great to have a chat and do fan cams with you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe Friday. We've got nothing to do, so I might come back here if you're keen, chat. That was really fun, and we'll do maybe some draft shit. But check out Blue Abroad. Make sure you're doing that. I think Terry's doing a watch on. Peace, love, and light, and we'll see you next time.
Go Blues.
Go Blues.